Everything that I've ever encountered that mattered had a ton of self-doubt because you haven't been there. You're going somewhere.
If we just think about the problem, that doesn't do anything. It's taking action. And even sometimes not knowing the action to take, but still taking that action.
Find out where you want to be. If you don't know how to get there, find a person that's been where you would like to be and learn everything you can learn from that person.
Welcome back to the Growth Over Comfort podcast. I'm joined again with Steve Miller, Coach Steve Miller, here today in the Crema Video podcast studio. And we've got a fun show today, I think.
Ready to go.
He doesn't know what we're going to talk about. I have loose ideas of things to talk about. Before we start, though, if you're on Spotify, please give us a nice review, some 5 stars maybe. If you're on Apple Podcasts, same. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to subscribe, leave a comment, or find us on Instagram and leave some comments there, or TikTok or whatever. We'd love to chat with you, and we love reading your comments and chatting back. So, not to be completely selfish, but the last time we left off, I think the last episode we talked about how I'm one of my main contracts is ending.
Sure.
And I'm starting down this road of trying to replace that. I wanted to give a little update. And technically I've told you most of this, these updates. But since then, I have secured one local podcast who's really big and who's going to film with here in the studio. And I'm going to help them edit and publish and all that. I've also connected more with a network out of Nashville.
Oh, okay.
And and they have about, I don't know how many shows, it's a couple of hundred shows that they work with. I think 150 at least. Anyway, they said they've never met or chatted with any agency, social media agency, or any social media agency person, editor basically, like me, who is so able to articulate himself so well. I say that, stumbled through that sentence, by the way. Anyway, they said that I impressed them. I may not impress the podcast listeners, but I impressed them enough that they said they wanted to recommend me to all of their shows, which has been great. And they also have several new shows coming on that they're going to also recommend using me in my studio. And when I say my studio, I mean for editing purposes, because obviously if they're in Nashville, most of their stuff's national. And then they also joined up with another network that has over 500 shows. And they're going to start doing sales for those shows. And during the sales process, they're going to push Crema Video for editing.
That's fantastic.
It's huge. And so
Yes.
I'm super stoked about it. I love it. And I have a few other things as well. There's also one really big show they work with that I might actually start editing for, and that would be a big contract. It would actually end up being about 40 to 50, maybe even 60% of the contract I'm losing. So all that to say, things are going better than they were last week, where I was
Right.
I'm not sure what's going to happen. I wanted to talk today, though, about self-doubt, because who I was last week, thinking about all this stuff going on, versus who I am right now after I've taken action and I'm seeing results of those actions. I'm different, There's a little more confidence. There's a little more hey, things are going to work out. Little swagger. I'm not trying to be cocky, but it's easier to feel more confident, to feel more hopeful when things are moving, clients are responding.
Right.
And I also just booked my first actual full consultation, YouTube video consultation, where they're going to pay me, I think, 4 times my normal hourly rate for 1 hour to talk and tell them how to improve their channel, which I've never booked any of those. And that blew me away too. I said the price just expecting, because I was thinking in my head, they're not going to say yes. And they were like, yeah, sounds great. Let's do one next month. And then after that, I want to book one every week. So anyway, back to the self-doubt. Because last week, I think it was Monday, I did have self-doubt. And I still do now, for sure. But things, like I said, are moving in a direction that gives me hope. So why is it that we have such self-doubt? Why do we not believe in ourselves when we have this idea of what we want to do?
I think it's the unknown, but everything that I've ever encountered that mattered had a ton of self-doubt because you haven't been there. You're going somewhere. So if you're going somewhere, the vision has to be clear. The expectations have to be clear. And then one of the big things for me, and it's really complicated because all of the self-doubt comes in. I believe everybody deals with some of that, but I think all of that comes in when you when number one, you're afraid back here. You're like, okay, I have no idea what this looks like beyond this point. I know what my vision is. I can see it out here. Out here, it looks like this. But one of the things in it that's really cool, and one of the things I've been really working on, is instead of setting the goal and having the vision and it's out here and I'm just working toward that, is changing that and going, okay, this is where I'd like to be, and I'm going to take this, and these are the steps to get there. And if I do these steps every day, then the outcome will take care of itself.
Yeah.
One of the things I heard this week that I thought was fantastic was hard work still produces the results that you're after. It may not always seem like you're getting there, but the hard work that you put in will still produce the results that you're looking for. But being able to have the confidence to go, okay, I'm going to make these 15 calls today, or I'm going to get up this morning and do the things that I know to do. I'm going to put the big rocks in the jar this morning, and I'm going to do that consistently. And it's hard to do it consistently, but then you start showing up every day, and then the next thing you know, you get an opportunity. And then that opportunity compounds because that person knew somebody that knew somebody else. And next thing you know, you're right back into, hey, this is going to work. I'm going to be okay.
Right.
Had you not taken any action at all, you're still sitting miserable back here.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh, poor me, this is never going to work. Well, it's never going to work because you never work.
Yeah. Oh, that's
so
good.
it's changing.
Yeah.
It's changing the mentality from this is my vision, this is where I want to be, to these are the things I'm going to do every day, and I'm going to work hard, and these are the opportunities that I'm going to pursue.
Yeah.
And as you do that, the opportunities that you need will show up, and the doors will open that you need to open.
I love that. I think you're 100% right. And if we just think about the problem, that doesn't do anything. It's taking action. And even sometimes not knowing the action to take, but still taking that action.
Yeah.
And then eventually coming to a solution for the problem from the actions. I also want to preface all this by saying I listened to myself after I thought about what I had just said, and I didn't want to sound like I'm super cocky. All those could fall through at any time. Like any of it could happen. If it does, I'm just going to get back up and do it again. Keep doing the actions. Like you said, results agnostic, really. Regardless of the results, the actions are what are being taken. And like you said, the results, they'll take care of themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful because I feel like I'm stepping out and I'm praying and asking God to provide in a way that I'm not used to. I'm not used to being provided for in this sort of way. And, as in like a different type of contract. Most of my contracts have always been websites. This will be all video production work. And so it's different. And I have a really awesome friend whose name is Lance Ingram, who I'd love to have on this podcast one day because he's well-spoken, he's written a few books, and he's a powerhouse of a spiritual man.
It's awesome.
And I asked him for prayer about this. And the first thing he said back was, got you covered in prayer, buddy. And then he said, God has always provided for you 100%. Why do we think now it's going to be any less percentage than that?
Yeah. Yeah, God's going to show up.
Yeah.
God's going to do what God does because he doesn't have an option. One of the attributes of God that I think is incredible is, he's 100% holy, which is incredible. But his truth is what makes him really what he is. There's never been anything that he said that wasn't true. So as you read and study God's word and look at all those heroes of faith and look at all of the things that God did and took people through and brought them out of and blessed them with, that's the same God that we serve today. He hasn't changed. He's still working. He's still 100% in his truth. Now, we don't always live it because, like I've said on the podcast before, I've lied to me more than I've lied to anybody else on the planet. I tell myself, hey, you're going to do this, and we're going to get this done, and I don't do it. God's not that way. If God says, hey, Randy, I'm showing up today, and I'm showing up for you, and I'm going to show up in a big way, he shows up.
Yeah.
He shows up every time.
Yeah. I love that. I think you're 100% right. Like I said, I'm super thankful for God's provision because I do believe that all good things come from him. So I do believe all these things are happening because of, he's providing for me. He's making connections happen. He's moving in ways that I didn't even understand happening. Even that same podcast network in Nashville, the person who led me to them, they messaged me and they said, just got off the phone with, and she said her name, one of the reps, and said, they told me they're going to push you for all their shows. And she said, "Congratulations, that's huge." And it just was massive and it made me really smile. And then she said, "However, please still make time for us?" Question mark. Because they're still like one of my main clients.
Right.
And I said, "I will always make time for you, Janine." And I said, "If I have more demand, I will just hire more people." You know?
Right.
So circling back though to self-doubt, action is the number one thing we can do to curb self-doubt, I think, right?
It's the only thing that curbs self-doubt. There's nothing else that will eliminate self-doubt other than action. And we use NBA players a lot, and we use, high-level professional athletes a lot. But if you move into the speaking circuit, I've heard Alex Hormozi talk about the first speech he gave. He said that he had practiced that speech over 100 times.
Yeah.
And he had spent so much time in preparation that when he was actually up to give the speech, it was flawless. And they asked him if he was nervous, and he said, no, not at all. He eliminated all of the self-doubt through the preparation and action that he took.
Yep.
It all went away. Most of the people that are successful in anything are action people. They're doers. I'm being mentored by Michael Burt. He's been in the coaching business for 30 years. He does all kind of different things, but his main deal is the coaching side of what he does. I sent out a deal for my book, and I'm like, hey, would you mind, giving me a 30-word, what you think about me and the book and how it would encourage people? 30 seconds later, I get it back.
Nice.
And I'm like, that's impressive. He's the most busy of anyone that I sent this to, but he responded the quick. I said, why did you do that? He said, I've learned that action is where the money's at.
That's good.
And I went, what do you mean by that? He said, anything that I do that matters, I take immediate action.
That's good.
And I went, well, that's really good.
Yeah, that's next level.
Because on my part, and maybe yours too, and maybe a lot of people listening on the podcast, I'm like, I can get to that this afternoon, or I can get to that in the morning. It's really not that important. Well, it's extremely important to the person that you're trying to help.
Yeah.
So the quicker you can get it to them, the better it is. And the more value you add to that person. And the more value you add to people, what happens in return? All of that flows back.
Yeah, it does flow back.
So the whole monetization, the whole making a difference, the whole making an impact is us being able to take action and help other people with their problems so that they can work through quicker. In turn, you've added so much value to them that in the future, regardless of what you ask, they're going to respond.
Yeah.
They're going to be
really
like,
good.
if he called me now and went, hey, I need you, I would go, okay, what do you need and when do you need me and where do you need me to be?
Yeah.
Because he's added so much value to me. So that I think the action piece goes a lot further than just removing self-doubt. I think it also adds action.
What I'm about to say next is going to make me look like I'm emotional, and I just try not to cough. I don't mind going there because, and I think we have one person on YouTube who has commented they like the personal parts of what we've talked about, and I'm super thankful. You also asked me to provide the 30 words or less.
Right.
And just as a comparison, he is massively busy.
Right.
And he has so many things going on. I mean, he's way up here. And I mean,
Right.
I'm not trying to put myself down, but in
No.
comparison. But so, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to. I'll send it tonight. Didn't send it. You were like, it's okay. I'll send it. You can send it tomorrow. Didn't send it tomorrow. I got it to you today. That's days later. And how funny. It's just like comparing the two, because it's not that what you asked me to do wasn't important to me. It was.
Correct.
But the actions speak louder than words. It's interesting looking at the comparison there. And the fact that you said it's adding value and you're able to take action immediately, that shows he is at a whole different level.
Yeah, it's a completely different level. And it's a completely different thought process. And one that I'm trying to work into, because not only did he do it in a time frame that mattered, it wasn't an inconvenience for him.
Right.
He didn't have an attitude.
Right.
His attitude was, yeah, man, I'd love to. How can I help you?
Yeah.
As opposed to me, if you called and said, hey, listen, I need this in the next, 30 minutes, I'd be like, now I've got to take time out of my schedule. I've got to stop what I'm doing. I've got to reorganize everything that I'm working on. And now I'm inconvenienced because Randy asked me to do something. Instead of, man, I'd love to. How can I help?
Yeah.
What can I do? And I think if we're going to approach our days like that, like I said, put the big rocks in, and then our days, when those little rocks like that come, When one of them cries out and we can get to it, just get to it. Knock it out and send it. I didn't come up with this, so don't. And I can't remember who it is, or I give them credit.
We could just say it's Winston Churchill.
Yeah, Winston Churchill. Sounds great. He said a lot of good stuff. But somebody said, anything that you can do in 2 minutes, do immediately.
That's good. Yeah. I've heard that. It is good.
Yeah. When I think about that, I'm like, how many 2-minute tasks do I let go and then they become 30-minute tasks because I have to remember them. I've got to put them in the right spot. I've got to work them in.
Yeah.
Instead of it takes 2 minutes, just do it.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not a problem. Just pick it up. Just
Yep.
put it where it goes. All of that stuff.
Because for me, the 2-minute things that I'm asked to do or I need to take care of, I say, yeah, I can do that. And I don't do them immediately. But then I am, at the end of the day, being like, wow, my 2-minute task, there are now 20 of them, and I need 40 minutes to do everything.
Yeah, and you're looking at it and your whole life's changed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's messed with your whole day. None of those are things that you really prioritize for the most part. So if you're like me, you just let them roll to the next day. So now
Yep.
you're starting your day with 40 minutes of things that you may or may not want to do. And then you're 40 minutes out of what you were intending to do.
Yeah.
And it's just a never ending circle
Yeah.
that causes back to the self-doubt. That causes self-doubt because now you can't complete the tasks that you know you need to complete that day because you've got all these little things that are eating you.
Yeah. That's 100% right. And then when you have action and you have an undeniable stack of proof about who you are, the self-doubt is quiet because you have the proof. So when you do the items every day, goes back to 75 hard almost, because when you do the items and you complete the tasks, you have proof of who you are as a person. So you end up saying, oh, I know I can do this because I've done these things. And that's one reason when I'm on program, I'm like on fire and I'm like, I can do everything. And then it's funny because literally like 2 weeks after being off program, I tend to slip back into other habits again. But anyway, I could talk more on that, but let's circle back to, so self-help is solved only by action and moving forward. Let's ask this: what is the best way to figure out what action to be taken? And I know this is a very open-ended topic because it's like, well, for me, the action was I've lost a big retainer. Mm-hmm. I need to go find new retainer. Mm-hmm. So basically, I need to be making tons of connections, tons of calls, putting myself out there in all these sort of ways. Mm-hmm. But let's just say that someone is frozen with fear, maybe not self-doubt, but just fear, and they don't know how to start to take an action. What would you say to them?
Find out where you want to be. If you don't know how to get there, find a person that's been where you would like to be and learn everything you can learn from that person. I really believe everybody needs a good coach in life. Coach Michael Burt says that. He's 100% right. Every high performer has multiple coaches. It's layered in their life. And it's people that are helping them work through things so that the things that they're not comfortable in, the things that they're afraid of, that person's already been there. They're already on the other side. And they're just saying, hey, listen, just come over here. That's a lot different than looking at a canyon and going, I've got to get over there. I've never been over there. I don't know how to get over there. It scares me. And you don't even know what path to take to get to the bottom, to start back up, to get to the top.
Yeah.
But once you find somebody that's already over there and they're like, hey, just take these steps right here, turn right here, and then move, it eliminates the fear because you're working with somebody that's done it, that's been there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I would be scared to death to jump out of an airplane with a parachute. But I wouldn't be as scared if somebody was, there with me that's like, hey, Steve, I do this every day. This is what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And I packed your parachute. You're perfectly fine.
Like a tandem jump.
Yeah, you're perfectly safe. There's not going to be any issues. We're going to be fine.
Yeah.
That's a lot different than, hey, Steve, pack your own parachute, jump out of this plane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to be scared to death doing that with somebody that's with me, that's done it, that's experienced, that knows what to do, that's handled it, that can get through, really helps a lot. So if I'm giving any kind of advice, don't go by yourself.
Yeah.
Especially if you're scared. Don't sit there because you're scared. Don't let all of your goals and dreams die because you're just going to sit over here by yourself and feel sorry for yourself. Find somebody that can help you. Mm-hmm. Go ask them. And you're like, well, they won't help me. Yeah, they will. I've got people helping me. You and I being on this podcast is straight from a conversation with me going, hey, this is what we would like to do. This is what we're looking to do. This is how we're going to impact people. and you go, I think I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Without that conversation, we're not here.
Right. 100%. There was another quote that was, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with someone.
Yeah, and I'll even go further in that quote. One of the things that I've added a long time ago, because I love that quote. But if you can carry somebody with you, that's awesome. But if you can develop a team of people with all kind of skill sets and abilities around you that can support in all the areas around, and you can carry them with you and help them be successful in their goals and dreams as well, it changes everything.
Yeah. And I just also wanted to add, because I agree with you that finding a mentor, finding a guide, someone who's already done it, yeah, that's great advice. When I go on a hike, which I haven't been on in a while, but when I do go on a hike, I don't just randomly find a path in the woods and start down it. The first thing I do is look up information about it that someone else has written. They went on the hike or they created the path. And so they can tell you all about it. They know that what terrain's coming up ahead. They know if there's anything I need to watch out for. And so I think it's very important. And I love that analogy about trying to climb a mountain or go up from a valley. If you have a guide there to help you do it, then it will not only ensure that your odds of success go up tremendously, but you'll also have company. And that's great too. But I wanted to also point out, if you want to find a mentor and the person you're wanting to be your mentor or your guide is not responsive and not saying, I just don't have time, that's okay. You can still model your life after, because everyone shares stuff on social media now.
Yes.
You can absorb what they're sharing on social media, and instead of acting like they're sharing it to their audience, just put your name in front of it. Randy, comma, and then Alex Hormozi says his stuff, like he's talking to me, So I think it's important to know that there shouldn't be a blocker for anyone. If they're like, I tried to get so-and-so mentor and they said no, and now I'm just stuck. Like, well, they're probably posting stuff online. You see them doing stuff. You could probably just get some great information just from that.
Right. Well, one of the things that I've come to realize is you don't necessarily have to have the guy that's already over on the other side. Like if I called Ed Milet today, if I could get his phone number, and I think I could, but if I called Ed Milet, he's probably not going to mentor me. If he does, it's going to cost a fortune.
Right.
And that's okay. But I can find somebody that's taken a few steps.
Yeah.
All right, he's further along than I am.
Yeah, exactly.
How did he get over there? Mm-hmm. He's at point A. And one of the things I've realized is that the further you go, the more people are willing to help. Yeah. Because he's serious about this.
Yep.
He's actually going to show up and do it. Wow.
Yes.
One of the things with Coach Burt is he's like, hey, you show up all the time. You're on everything that we can possibly get that we have. If we have an event, you're sitting in the front row. Well, there's a reason for that. I want him to know, number one, I'm serious about it. Number two, I want to get to where he's at. I would love to be on the level that he's on.
Yeah.
And to do that, I hope I have 30 years. I'd be 84. Okay, yeah. If I have 30 years, that's great, but I'm 84. I don't really have 30 years. I need to get there in 3 to 5.
Yep.
So it's a whole different process and movement for me. So I want him to know that I'm serious. I want him to know that I'm available. And then other people in that are like, hey, I'm already here. And I look at them and go, okay, can you help me get to right there? Because how you got there is important for me.
Yeah. And to add to that, I think that it's like you said, when you've already moved some and people see that you're actually wanting and moving, they are more willing to help. And I think as you get further in that area with the high performers is what I'll say.
Yeah.
They recognize that. They recognize this person is not just all talk, because they probably have 200 people every week that talk to them about ideas and things and blah, blah, blah. But they probably only have 5 that are actually making moves.
Right.
And so when they see those 5, they go, that's someone I want to speak life into. That's someone, not that they don't want to speak life in the others. That's someone I want to invest resources in. That's someone I want to make sure it wins.
Yeah, back to what we talk about, time's limited. So be careful where you spend your time. Be careful with who you spend your time with, and make sure that they're serious about what it is. There's some that will qualify you now. You have to do certain things, and if you don't do those things, you can't even get in their program.
Yeah,
and I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
because it shows how serious you are. And some of it is a financial barrier. Like it costs X to work with X.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. So that guy's, 100% serious.
Yeah, for sure. And those people that are willing to pay that, they show up because they've made that investment. They've made that commitment.
Right.
They take it serious. It's like going to the gym. If you pay $10 a month to go to Planet Fitness, you're going to be like, it's just $10. But if you signed up for whatever local gym with a trainer and it costs you $500 a month, you're not going to miss it.
Right. And if you do, you've got a reason. And back to what we said, having somebody that goes with you, you've got that trainer that's there, and they're going to call you, and they're going to question, these were your goals. This is what you said you wanted to do. You can't do that if you miss on Monday.
Yeah.
You miss 2 Mondays in a row. You can't do what you said you were wanting to do if you miss on Monday. We need to recalibrate your plan.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
That's hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
You're talking about self-doubt.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
The first one, we're talking about self-doubt today, and you said you had a little bit of self-doubt. Obviously, you get hit.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of self-doubt comes after you get hit. I think Mike Tyson says it well, everybody has a plan until somebody hits them in the mouth. And then you start doubting whether or not your plan or your preparation to get to that point was what you were looking for.
Yeah.
So you got hit in the mouth. You got knocked down. Being able to get back up from that, what were some things that allowed you to get back up after you got hit? Because the self-doubt creeps in everywhere.
Yeah. I think number one was backup plans.
Okay.
In my head, I always have backup plans. And I have all these thoughts about here's what I want to happen, but I always know that I can do this. And what I knew I could always do was I could find something similar. It may not be that exactly. It may not be as good as what I had, but I can find something that will do. And maybe that's a bit cocky, but it's also, I've been in that industry for 10 plus years and I know it like the back of my hand. So I knew that I could get back up and find something different there. But I didn't want to. I wanted to find something that was what I really wanted to go after, which is video production and media and all that stuff. The number two thing, because having the backup plan is great and having that in my mind is good. But the number two thing is I have a family. I have a wife and I have 2 daughters and they look to me to provide. So it's not just I've got to sit now in my own feelings and feel sorry for it. If I don't bring, money home, they don't eat. And so it's not just me. And I could probably survive off of very little, like I could live here. I don't know if I can, I'm not supposed to probably, and I could eat the lowest amount of food, whatever, I'd be okay. But I have to provide for them. I have to have, clothes for my little girls. So I knew in my mind, I just have to. I have to meet this standard because this goes back to something you said in a previous episode. I have a standard with what I provide for them. And I knew that if I don't meet that standard, there's going to be pain. And so I'm going to do everything in my power to get up off the ground and meet that standard.
Okay. The second one, and this one's a little bit of a brag on you, but it's also a question for you. When we first met, you sent me a contract that, when I saw it, I'm like, that's like 3 times my house payment every month. Not that there's not value in that and not that you're not worth that. I think you're worth every penny. And I think that you bring even more value than what was on that paper for what you had offered. But from the time that we met to right now, there have been huge investments from you personally for your business. I mean, all of the podcast equipment, this studio, everything about that. So what in you, I mean, there's self-doubt. You're in the space, but you're not really, this is not the financial part of your space yet. But what in you caused you to go from, okay, I'm sitting right here and this is what I want to do, to this is the financial part that I have to do. And these are the things that if I'm going to take this next step, it's a big step. So I'm going to have to step out. So you're not only dealing with, hey, I may lose one of my bigger contracts, but you're also dealing with, this is a financial investment for me to move toward my future. So what, with all the self-doubt, with all the stuff going on and everything spinning in your head, what caused you to move from where you were to where you are, less than a month?
Yeah.
So
I would say I'm tired of not knowing what could be. I was tired of dreaming about having a space like this. I was tired of not starting something that I could be proud of and making my own content. And I said, I work with some people that they just started filming themselves and 2 years later, their entire lives changed on YouTube, on Instagram and such. And I said, why am I any different? The difference is I haven't taken the action. I haven't started. I haven't gone for it. And so for me, I think the cost of all of this, the studio, the cameras, the Rodecaster and all this stuff, the mics, I think that the cost of all of this is way less than the cost of me being even just a few years from now, 5 years from now, going, I still hate my job. And man, what if I had started that?
Oh, that's so good.
What if I had signed that lease?
That's so good.
You know, the cost is, there's no comparison. And even to add to that, if this all fails, who cares? I tried.
Yeah.
I went for it.
Right.
You know?
Well, what would failure look like? I mean, what's the time
Failure would be me stopping, which I'm not planning on.
frame? Let me give you this. I started about a month ago doing a video every morning that I send out to my guys, and then I'm posting it TikTok and Instagram, which is an experience all in itself for somebody that doesn't live in that world, that doesn't do that.
Yeah.
But this week, I'm like, whew, it's getting old.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this is every morning. And just this week, one of my guys sent, man, you're so consistent.
There you go.
You know, I appreciate what you're sending out. I appreciate what you're doing. And I'm literally sitting there going, I can quit. I'm pretty good at the quitting side. I can give up, but what if I keep going? And then I was listening to another YouTube guy, and he was talking, and he said when he started in like 2014. He said, you know, I posted stuff for like 3 months. And he said, I literally sat one day and went, if I quit, it was just my little YouTube phase. He said, now it's 10 years later. I have X amount of followers. I'm making this impact in the world. And all because he just stayed in it. And I think that's one of the huge things. And you know, we talked about self-doubt, but one of the huge things is just stay in it.
Yeah.
And then the question is, when do you quit? Yeah, at what point do you actually quit? You've dealt with some people that have tried to start some things that have quit. Mm-hmm. What caused them to quit? Did you look at some of them and go, it's way too soon? Man, I can't believe they quit.
Yes. I would say that the reason people quit, and this is nothing I came up with. I literally heard this from Alex Hermosi's podcast yesterday. But the reason that people quit is because they look at whatever the cost is and they say, I can't make that sacrifice anymore. They say, it's not worth my time to do this anymore. Or the cost is just beyond me and I can't do it anymore. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I have seen people quit that they gained enough following, they gained enough money, and they said, it's not worth it to me anymore. I'm okay coasting. But I would say that I have seen similar people who did the same thing never gain that same momentum back. And I don't know because I'm not close enough to ask them, but I do wonder, do they regret losing the momentum? And do they regret no longer having those same actions and that same momentum? It's a big stone ball. It's really hard to get it moving. Mm-hmm. It's so hard. It's hard to push it. But once you start pushing it, it starts going. And it's going. And now it's like minimal effort to keep it going.
Right. Do you know when the effort ends on the big stone ball? I mean, do you know when it's going to start rolling on its own?
No.
You've done this what, 10 years?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Because that's I feel like that's a whole other topic in a certain way, because if you choose growth, if you really choose growth over comfort, the stone ball actually starts to get heavier, you know? And
that is not what I wanted to hear today. And I know I'm normally the one that you're listening to and going, hey, listen, I need this. But I don't need anybody telling me that the stone's going to get heavier. And here's the part that's killing me right now. All I'm doing is recording a 30-second to a minute video. And something in my mind's like, that's hard. That's not hard.
It's doing it every day, though. You know?
Yeah.
So it's not hard to read 10 pages. But to do it every day for 75 days... and never miss, and it always be the same book or you know, whatever book, and never like picking up a different one.
Yeah.
You know, that is. For most people, they can stand in a cold shower for 5 minutes, but every morning doing it.
Right.
For 30-ish days or whatever.
That's this morning, I didn't want to get in the shower.
Yeah.
You're like, you don't want to take a shower? No, I don't want to get in the cold shower. I didn't want to get in the cold shower.
Yep.
And my brain was like, you always get in the cold shower. Get in the shower. I'm like, okay. We'll get in the shower.
Yep. To go back to the stone analogy, I will say, as you push it, I feel like it rolls by itself eventually, and you're just barely pushing it. It's like in a car. When you get up to 60 miles an hour, it took you something to push on the pedal to get to 60.
Yeah.
But then you let up, and you're just barely tapping the pedal to keep going at 60 miles an hour. But the thing is that if you're still pushing that stone and it's still the same weight and it's still rolling, but you're just maintaining, you're not growing, you're going to notice people that are going past you, or they're going to be going further than you. And it's not that they're pushing harder, but it's that their stone is bigger. And as the stone gets bigger, it has more impact. It has more as it rolls. So yes, you have to keep pushing and growing for sure. But the point is that you've reached that level and you're okay with it, because it's hard in the beginning, but then you teeter off and you're like, this is easy. But when you realize something is easy, you're like, that's when the trainer increases your weight and says, your muscles are used to this. Let's change that.
Yeah. And we're going to have to do this in another episode because we're going to run out of time. But one of the things you just said, I can't compare the stone I'm pushing to your stone because we're not the same.
Yeah.
We're not pushing the same thing. I wish sometimes I could pick me up and put me on somebody and then feel what I feel.
Yeah.
But I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can only push the stone that I'm called to push.
Yeah.
And I think too often we look around and go, well, they're rolling a lot better than I'm rolling, or they're doing a lot better than I'm doing. And what we don't realize is they're struggling too.
Yeah.
And we fail to realize that their struggle is just different than our struggle.
Yep.
And, God's called us to our struggle and our plan. So we need to make sure we stay in that.
Yeah. I think that's great. I think it's really good. And the last thing before we sign off, please don't stop your videos, because what happens for me, and I need to tell you this more often, but I will always hit a slump in my day where because being an entrepreneur is the best thing ever. It's also almost the worst thing ever,
Yeah, dude.
because you're like, this is amazing. I'm going to be recommended to 500 something podcast shows. This is so great. And then literally in the next hour, that huge client that I wanted just responded and said, I'm not interested. No thanks. And you're down. And that's a silly example, but there are ebbs and flows. But anytime that I've had like a down moment, or I'm just like, I know, because I don't always watch them in the morning, but I know I have a video from you, so I go and watch it, and you fire me up every time, and I'm just like, let's go. And so much so that like my wife, if she hears me listening to your video, she knows I'm about to come talk her ear off about an idea or something, or I'll get energized or something. And so when she
that's
says,
fantastic.
when I hear Coach Steve's voice, I know he's about to get fired up about something.
Right.
And so please keep going.
Yeah, and I've shared this, and I'll share it all the time. But my main reason for doing that is my grandsons are 2 and not much, like 2 months.
Yeah.
And, I want to leave a legacy for them. And they live in Orlando, so I can't get there every day. But Julian listens to that video every day, and it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest reason for the video, but I think it helps some other people, so that's good too.
For sure. I love it. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening to the Growth Overcomer podcast. Make sure you follow us on all the socials. You know all the stuff to do. I don't have to tell you. We really appreciate everyone who does listen, and we're so thankful for y'all. So just be sure to connect with us. If you want to see those videos, they can find you on TikTok, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm on TikTok.
And that's where you post them as well, right?
Yeah.
He won't be personally texting them to you, but you will see the same video.
Oh, yeah.
So go check him out. It's coach.steve.miller. Right?
Yeah.
And of course, we'll have the links down in the show notes below. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch y'all next time. Make sure that you are choosing growth over comfort.